is 6:03, calling the Winthrop School Committee to order. Roll call. Ms. Hames, please call the roll.
Mr. Fabiano? Here. Mr. Matucci?
Yep.
Ms. Powell? Present. Ms. Swope?
Here.
Mr. Vecchia?
Here.
Mr. Perrin?
Here.
Mr. Capabianco?
Okay, Ms. Swope, you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comment this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Delegates and visitors. I don't believe we have any this evening. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of September 9th, 2019? Mr. Vecchia, Mr. Matucci. Can I get a vote on that, please?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Well, it passes. Okay, financial business and procedures, warrant SVW 20-5 in the amount of $139,995.23. Can I get a motion on that, please?
Motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's a vote. Payroll warrant SPW 20-3 in the amount of $189,486.24. Can I get a motion, please?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstentions?
Abstain.
Abstain. 2 abstentions. Budget transfers, we have a budget transfer, ATC budget transfer, the amount of $350 to the Winthrop Middle School, and the amount of $705. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. The ATC in the Winthrop Middle School in the amount of $705. Motion?
Motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Vote to accept classroom donation. Vote to accept the $500 donation.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
If I can pop in on that.
They didn't do the reading one. Just there's a professional development transfer also. There's no amount
sorry.
because there's money in transit, and we're just moving it from the school lines into a central so that Laurie can
Manage it.
manage it.
Did that vote cover it, having the $350 and the $750 for the
No.
professional development? Can I get a motion for the $350 for, or the unnamed amount for professional development
Motion. Second.
to be determined? All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on, apologize for my tardiness, I was in line at a week.
The donation.
All right, moving on to buildings and grounds, we have a request from Winthrop in Special Olympics. Do we have a motion to approve those requests? The rear packet. Motion by Ms. Swope, second by President Vecchia. Any discussion on those motions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One abstention. The ayes have it. The motion is approved. Subcommittee reports. All right. Superintendent's report.
Yes. Thank you. First, I'd like to just talk a little bit. I had an awesome experience last week. The class of 1969 asked if they could have a tour of the school, of the new middle high school. I have not been able to do a tour. So far, we've done a few of them, and I've had a conflict in my schedule, so I haven't been able to do it. Happened to be the night of a football game, and I was going to be here anyway, so I said, sure, I would like to do that. So some folks came at the front of the building at about 5:30, and we still have lots of activity going on within the school, athletics and clubs and whatnot going on after school. And I had the opportunity to walk the people around the middle high school. Being part of the design team before I had moved on for a couple of years and prior to coming back, having that experience and working on this building was awesome. But the first experience of being able to really show it off to people and to walk around and look at the different sections of the building and talk about all kinds of stuff. Why the cafeteria looks like a hallway, how different that is from 1969, why the classrooms look a little bit different. There's not a teacher's desk with lots of personal stuff on the desk because we're really functioning now more like a college atmosphere in terms of use of space and why that needs to be. Talked about the front office, talked about the smells of the building being different, but those people who were here kind of remembering what the high school was like when they were here and how it smelled. When we walked into this room, people were overwhelmed who had been here for high school. So after showing them all our acoustics and talking about Neil Shapiro and what an amazing guy Neil was, I asked if anybody had any mobility issues, and thankfully no one did, and we walked up the side for the Fenway-like seating that we saved from the old auditorium that's at the very top, which brought back memories to the people who had actually sat in those seats. But I think the best takeaway I have from that, took about an hour, and you know me, when I get going, I was a little bit proud of a lot of it, of this building. And I asked if people had questions, and some people did. And then some people had comments, and the majority of the comments were about, one, how beautiful this brand-new building was, and how clean this brand-new building was. Well, this building's not brand-new. This building's 2 years old. We're in our third year. Friday afternoon at 5:30 was about a couple of hours after our kids had actually left classrooms, and this place was spotless. And it was spotless because of our custodial staff and the attention to the detail in this building. As we were walking through the hallways, our custodians were passing by, and people were passing by and picking up things. The kids weren't leaving water bottles all over the place, and I said, just so you know, we didn't clean this building for you today. As a matter of fact, I don't know that they have started because we still have athletics going on, so they're doing their rooms. But it was really neat to hear them talk about how clean it was, and someone mentioned the corners of the staircase, which my mother would be proud. They're very clean. And I'm not here cleaning them, the custodians are. So then I happened to see the custodians at the football game that night and said thank you, because you're supposed to do that. But more importantly, because I really was thankful that I got to give this tour. Another highlight of the night, Paul Sear, who was a teacher here for many, many years. He and I did our battles back in the day when I was a teacher and he was a teacher. And he walked in, he looks like Santa Claus, so he's not that hard to pick out of a crowd. And I asked him, have you been back here? His wife was in the class of '69. He said, Lisa, I haven't been back here. He said, you know, this is breathtaking, and he had a little bit of tear in his eye. And then Frankie Fabiano came out of the parking lot and into the school because he was looking for the referees to do his job as the assistant AD, and he saw Paul from a distance and took off running and grabbed Paul and rubbed his belly and said, you look just like Santa, you haven't changed. And then the waterworks came. And Paul was very proud of that. He was very proud of being back in the school, and he couldn't say enough about, you know, just his love of Winthrop and how nice it looked and how happy he was for the teachers and the students in this community. So that was my one happy point for tonight. Another happy point, I want to wish Norma Goldbale a happy 90th birthday tomorrow. So Norma turns 90 tomorrow. She retired from here in August of 2010 after working for 35 years in the Winthrop Public Schools. I don't know that I've ever met a classier woman in my life, and a woman who's more knowledgeable. If I called Norma today and said, Norma, can you tell me what file cabinet this paperwork from this building project that was done 35 years ago, she would direct me to this day to that file cabinet. She has helped a lot of people. She is now in good health, and I want to wish her a very happy birthday for tomorrow. A few little other items on my report for tonight. The MCAS results are still embargoed. They will be released tomorrow. We've had the opportunity to do what superintendents and principals who get to see some results prior to them being released to the public are allowed to do. We will begin our circuit of meeting in groups, along with the curriculum director, principals, assistant principals, and some teachers to take a look at that data and begin to formulate a presentation for the school committee that you will be able to understand. So I can't tell you anything about it until after tomorrow at 5 a.m. when the embargoed, 9 a.m., I'm sorry, the embargoed results are released. So more to come on that. As everybody knows, for the playground, the town has appropriated the funds, and we are very thankful for that. At this point, working with the town, assistant town manager and CFO regarding the need to do a formal RFP, We have quotes, we've been working on this for 2 years, so we do have quotes for the work. Our job now is to look at whether or not we have to formally put those out for bid. That's a subject that we're looking into deeply, whether or not we need to do that. Both of the companies that gave us quotes that the school committee, subcommittee looked at were on the state bid list, and sometimes that allows you not to have to do an RFP. However, we need to look a little more deeply at the labor involved, and we may need to separate out the work and bid the labor out if it goes over $50,000. Our continued conversation with Altiplay was the recommended choice of the school committee. We've continued to work with Altiplay. They've done multiple playgrounds in this community. We've been working with them for 2 years around improvements in the playground when we needed to order mats or if we had to order any items to be fixed. We have worked with them, and we will continue to keep them up to date. We have a committee put together. We put a committee together last year to talk about playground design. We're going to use some members of that same committee moving forward, because although we have a quote, we need to continue to look at design. We need to have conversations about how the community can be involved, if this is going to be, when it's going to get done. It's not something that the timeline doesn't sit with me. The timeline sits with the weather and the company who finally is signed a contract with us to do the work. And again, we need to wait to get through some of the paperwork around an RFP and the need to do that. So as soon as we have answers to that and we're able to move forward, then a timeline will become available. In looking at playgrounds over the last 2 years, I have learned that to put in a new surface, that the weather has to be 40 degrees or higher for 10 days in a row. Timing is not great for us. However, ordering the equipment goes in first, and then the surface is laid down. Mind you, the equipment and surface that's there needs to be removed, and that needs to be done during a time that is safe for our students. So although we have a lot of work already done, we have work before us, and I will bring you up to date a little bit more once we get some clarity on the RFP.
Lisa, the custodians are still doing that weekly check on the
Yep.
on the playground. Just on that one slide, if we could take a look at it, there's a little bit of a break in one of them.
There is.
So if we can get,
So the larger slide that the kids cannot go down.
Right, it's closed at the top.
That's cordoned off, has a large crack in it, and now there's and has had a crack in the other slide. We have to make some determination moving forward as to whether or not we can keep that playground continuing to stay open for the next couple of months, or if we are going to start disassembling the playground and how that's going to look. Do we need to move our students out to the side lot, which is actually the front of the building? The surface out there is cement, which is less forgiving than the surface that the play structure is currently on. So as that timeline becomes known, we'll definitely look at that slide again. I just received all of last year's weekly reports from our custodians. They go out there with a checklist that was recommended by the original company, New England Playground, New England Inspection, Playground Inspections. They created a form. We use that form since that form became known to us, not just at the Cumming School, but also at the Gorman Fort Banks and here.
I know we've closed the top of the slide, but what I saw the other day is, and this was not when the teachers were there, it was before the teachers came, and some kids were there with their families. They go up the slide, then they go down the slide.
Correct.
And when the teachers are there, I'm sure on recess, they enforce that.
That's correct. So there's
But
the needs and
It's still,
staff that are out
I was
there.
just wondering if we could tape it or something, because the one that is cordoned off, that gash is pretty.
It is, and it's gotten bigger and bigger as more people have
Yes.
gone over to investigate that crack and decide how deep that crack is, and stuck things like keys in it and feet to see if it was really cracked. It's absolutely cracked. There is no doubt that the bottom of that slide is
I know
cracked. That playground is used, just for general information, by the school when the school is open, by the after-school programs, all summer by the school programs, and when there is no school program going, there is public that does utilize that park. It is a park that is used by the entire community at all hours.
Right.
So we'll double-check that, and we will also double-check that. And if, in fact, there's going to be a move to start to do any work out there, to get ready for the installation of a playground, I will keep you informed as to whether or not we are going to shut that area down. There's a lot that goes on in shutting an area down like that. How do you shut it down? What aspects of it do you shut down? What kind of structure do you put around it? We need to talk about liability of putting something around it, what the liability is around closing that portion of the playground off. Maybe it's just the equipment, maybe it's the whole area. Be working with Rich Safuni and McHale to make sure that we do that correctly when it's time to do that as well. Moving on. Let me see if I have any more. One other interesting bit of information. We have developed a threat assessment team as of last year and working closely with the chief of police and the fire chief for our students. And the threat assessment team is a group of people who comes together when there is an actual threat. We always come together when there's a threat. However, we wanted to work together to have a definition of what it is that each one of us on the team do and have a clearly defined team in place that responds to any type of a school threat, certainly involving students. We are fortunate to work with the town, and Speaker DeLeo has been very gracious with providing funds and suggestions of funds to the school for safety grants. So through our safety grant and working with the police chief, we are going to bring in Dewey Cornell, who is the founder of the Virginia Model of Threat Assessment, and he is going to sit down with our threat assessment team, which is comprised of staff here, school adjustment counselors, school psychologist, administration, as well as folks from the police station, the police chief, folks from the fire department, and the town health department, Meredith Hurley, the town nurse, and a social worker from the town, as well as CASA. And we're all going to be in a room together on November 5th for about 8 hours, being trained in understanding threat assessment and defining our own roles on that team. So that's very exciting for us to have it in writing, so that if one of us were to leave and someone else were to come in, whether it be a staff member or a principal, somebody can step right into that role and be called when there is, if and when there is an emergency. We will know how to respond. And we do know now, but we'd like to have a protocol for that, because I am the queen of protocols. And that is it for me.
Personnel?
Okay, personnel. So we have one resignation. Patty, I don't have my paper in front of me, but I believe we have one resignation in our IT department. So our lead IT has taken a job in another company, different than a school, with some movement for him in the future. So it's a future good career move for him. Tough situation for us. And just in speaking of what we're going to be doing with that, knowing that he was moving on, we have two IT people in our department, which is not as many as we need given the amount of infrastructure and technology that we do have. However, we have a lead teacher in each building, or a teacher in each building who is assigned to do some direct work in those buildings. Retrofit is the company that deals with all of our back-end technology. So knowing that this particular person was leaving, we brought Retrofit in to do an assessment of what we have in terms of personnel, where our needs are, and how quickly they can help us. Having that person not here for one day is going to be impactful for us. So Retrofit was sending me today a proposal of having them cover that position, at least until we can appropriately identify all the job titles that go along with that person's role, as well as determine if there is somebody out there who can pick up that level of work. So more to come on that, but that is the backup plan when this particular person is not here anymore, which will be, I believe, October 4th will be his last day. In terms of postings, the athletic director has posted the spring athletic coaching positions, as you could see in your packet. And I believe phys ed and wellness teacher that we talked about last week, that was posted as well, and it's a wellness teaching position. Is our current phys ed teacher is certified in wellness, and off the top of my head, cannot recall her other certifications, but It looks at this point like she will be moving into the SEL classroom, and we will be replacing the phys ed teacher. So it'll be an internal teacher who will be taking over at the middle school for this year, and we will replace her with a phys ed teacher. We have interviewed some strong candidates. Brian has recommended a phys ed teacher from Boston Public Schools with 6 years of experience, Boston Public Schools, and lots of coaching experience, who's looking for a small-town atmosphere where he can get to know his students better. I interviewed him as well, and we are awaiting him to sign a contract, and I think he will be an excellent addition to the Winthrop Public Schools for our students. We also have an addition of the secretary posting for the middle school that we talked about last meeting. That posting has gone up, and we have a substitute ESP, educational support person, for a student in need at the Arthur T. Cummings School.
All right, moving on with new business in your packet, we have the homeschool application. So I have a motion to approve the applications.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Matucci.
Second.
Second by President Vecchia. Any discussion on the motion of the application? It's in our packet. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, the ayes have it, the motion is adopted. Unfinished business, superintendent evaluation, Mr. Matucci.
I've received the last two today, evaluations, and at the next meeting, we'll have a report.
Awesome. Public comment? None. Public relations, President Vecchia.
Nothing yet.
No.
Nothing.
Suffolk County District Attorney's Office, Rachel Rowlands will be hosting a town hall this Thursday evening at the high school auditorium at 6 to 8. I encourage all those to attend. Tickets are free and childcare will be provided.
And snacks.
And snacks, all right.
And that went out to all of our families tonight at 6 o'clock, along with the flyer via email.
Oh, excellent. I have saved the date for Anything Goes, the high school musical, November 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Will be an excellent show, I'm sure.
Always is.
I'd like to make a motion to enter executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation, and I also expect that we'll be adjourning from executive session. Do I have a
Motion.
second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Matucci. Ms. Hames, you please call a roll.
Mr. Fabiano?
Yes.
Mr. Matucci?
Yes.
Ms. Powell? Yes. Ms. Swope?
Yes.
Mr. Vecchia?
Yes.
Mr. Capabianco?
Yes.
Mr. Karen?
We will next.
Yes.
The motion is adopted.